is the race that no one got to watch, and that is the men's 60. Now, first, before we get to the men's 60 final, which had like a little bit of chaos with the broadcast, let's talk about that prelim. Number one, Micah Williams and Terrence Jones, both false start. Now, Terrence Jones' false start seemed kind of predictable because Terrence Jones, after his phenomenal 6:45, which seems to happen like 8 years ago, aka January, he just wasn't the same. He didn't run a Big 12s. He ran like a 200 in February. He just wasn't running what we thought he was going to become after that January race. So him false starting was kind of like, yeah, I can see that happening. He was a freshman and, redshirt freshman, albeit. But Terrence Jones false starting kind of seemed non-surprising. But Michael Williams, this guy's run 6:48. He's run sub 6:50 multiple times this season. He was the clear on favorite. If he made the final, he would have won. I'm 100% he would have won. But he false starts. And this kind of reminds me of like this, for some weird reason, we always have like a star athlete false start in these big moments. I remember at NCAAs when I think Trayvon Bromell false start. Trayvon Bromell false. Oh, I can't say. Oh man, this is bad. False started in a 60 in college. So did Andre DeGrasse. And I remember that they then came back and ran an incredible 200. But these false starts just always seem to nip some star athlete. So when you look at a start list and there's like 3 star athletes, odds are one of them is going to false start, which sucks. But it was kind of disappointing because the final, as interesting as it was, which I'll get into, I wanted to see what Williams was going to do. I wanted to see Williams run a low 6:40. I wanted to see I wanted the reaction to be like, man, I wish he was at Worlds because he could have challenged Bracy and Coleman and Jacobs. Because I think Williams has a chance to be one of the next U.S. stars, but we just haven't seen it yet. We're just waiting for that moment. He's like on the cusp, but we're just waiting. And now we have to wait another whole season because we thought this was going to be his moment to shine. It didn't happen. He was very disappointed when I saw him walk off the track. Wasn't able to get an interview with him because that's what sucks. A lot of times when these athletes' days don't go as planned, it's really hard to get them to talk on camera. But I'll do better next time. But yeah, Michael Williams still had a good year, and he's going to be the favorite in the 100 outdoors, but just wasn't meant to be. Now let's talk a little bit about that final, though. Well, in the prelim, though, I will say Matthew Bowling ran from like last to first in the prelim, and I was like, after that prelim, I was like, Bowling, this is going to be his meet. This is going to be the meet of Matthew Bowling. But clearly, spoiler alert, that's not what happened. Anyway, continue on to the final. So they set up, they're ready to go, and then they run. And so when this is happening, I'm actually interviewing, I forget who I'm interviewing. I'm interviewing an athlete from like the previous event, not sure which was. So I'm kind of looking at the race with the corner of my eye, and then I hear the gun go off. I see them come across the finish line, and then I'm like, wait, Matthew Bowling isn't in that finish. That's weird. Like, why is he like not there? And I was confused, and the crowd was kind of getting a little weird because people were like talking, and I realized it's like, wait, was there a false start with no second gun? Because I only heard one gun. One gun goes off, and then they basically run the whole race, but there wasn't a second gun. And typically when it's a false start, there's a second gun, but there was no second gun. We talked to some people on the ground, and apparently one of the blocks sound equipment, like speaker, like malfunctioned and sounded off as a second gun, which caused some of the athletes to pull up, someone like Matthew Bowling. But it wasn't loud enough for, someone like Devontae Burnett, and a bunch of the other USC guys who actually ran the full 60. And so there's a little bit of confusion, and coaches were frustrated because if you're Devontae Burnett, you just put an all-out effort to win, you can't just walk back and then run another 60. Like, all right, come back to the blocks, go. Because you put out a full 100%, took all the gas out, put in the NOS, and you were gone. And now you got to come back and do it again. You can't just like do that, 1 minute later. So I saw like the USC coaches rush over, and I think they tried to delay the start of the race because they didn't want the athletes who ran the full 60 meters to have to go again quickly. So they kind of gave them seemed like an extended break before the second run. It was like 5 to 10 minutes. It felt like a long time. Everyone's just standing around. Everyone's just twiddling their thumbs, waiting like, what's going on? What's going to happen? But meanwhile, while this is all happening, I think it's just normal. I think just this is a long delay. The ESPN feed goes down. Trayvon Bromell tweeted, nah, NCAA track and field, what's going on? So everyone at home is freaking out because they're like, what are we missing? What's going on? And I'm sitting on the track being like, oh, they're just going to have to wait 5-10 minutes for them to recuperate for a second run. Luckily, the athletes were able to. Luckily, I felt like the false start of the 60 or the miscalculation of the blocks sound equipment, so it really wasn't a false start, didn't really affect the result at the end of the day because USC's Devontae Burnett still went on to win. He actually won the race twice, which is kind of cool. I think he tweeted out like a race video of his first and second race because like he won the 60 twice. So that was good that like you don't feel like that long delay affected any of the athletes. But then apparently that second 60 that Devontae went on to win in 650, no one got to see that either. And apparently ESPN was dealing with some technical difficulties and that it went all the way into the 400 apparently. No one was saying that was going on in the stadium. I know maybe someone stepped on the cables. Maybe it's like that, that meme. There's like a meme where someone is like unplugging like the plug at like the back of like an airplane and like brings everything down. But this is why you got to go to the meet, right? I know, I'm just kidding. It sucks that people didn't get to see it live and you're kind of like left thinking, what's going on? What did we miss? You're like, everyone's just confused and there's not a clear understanding communicated to the people. I think one thing about this meet is ESPN, they weren't broadcasting it on linear television because of the schedule, right? It was two-hour segments. And I think because a conference championship weekend going on, ESPN wasn't able to find a time slot to show basically 8 hours of track and field content on a weekend when college basketball is going on. So it was basically only given to internet, the ESPN 3s of this world, which I have no problem with because that's the future and that's what we do. We linear. No, who buys cable anymore? Come on. But I think there just wasn't a clear they're not throwing it to a desk in studio, kind of explaining what's going on, which is what normally would have happened in a regular broadcast of like linear. They were like, all right, like if this happened at a football game, they would go to a desk back in Bristol, Connecticut, and be like, we're having technical difficulties. We'll let you know when we're up and running. Don't worry, we're holding off the race until we're ready to go. But they didn't do that because track, whatever. They'll let people like Trayvon Bromell just tweet in angst. Anyway, Devontae Burnett wins at 650. Wasn't that impressive of a time. I think it's because Michael Williams wasn't in there. Burnett, is he a sleeper for being in consideration for one of the top guys in the U.S.? I'm not there yet because a lot of guys are running 650s. He's going to need to do it a couple more times. He's going to need to run the 9.9s a couple times outdoors for me to really start considering him one of the top U.S. runners. But it's a good start for him. There was also like a protest in the 60. There's a good tweet by our boy Travis Miller. Who's protesting the 60 meters? Track Twitter, literally everyone, because no one got to watch it. I think there was a protest there because people were upset that they had to run the race twice, right? And people were protesting everything. I think you just protest to protest. If you're you feel like the wind blew a little bit too far to the left or to the right, you're going to protest it. It's